We must take a hard look at ourselves. I say the problems don't begin and end in Russia. The problems are in our own backyard, our own party
We're
here.
seeing that our party has felt the deadly influence of Stalinism from top to bottom. We can't contradict our
Does the
leaders.
structure of our party really work? Is it effective? Or does it just give power into the hands of a few? The leadership isn't
We must create
infallible.
a party that fits American life. We must be open, not secretive, and we must be completely democratic. The American
We
people will
communists
accept
demand freedom of speech everywhere. But too often we have failed to demand it in our own ranks. I say our idea of democracy just isn't working. We've become rigid.
We had a principle called democratic centralism. That is, there has to be some centralized bureaucracy, but there is a whole hierarchy which is put into existence and controlled and operates in a very democratic fashion. What actually happened, as I see it, was that there was lots of centralism and practically no democracy.
You did have discussions. You had pre-convention discussion before a convention was going to be held. And what it all meant, I'm just not all that sure, because I think, and not only looking back, talking with a lot of people who were in the leadership, that it was pretty much made from the top.
The bureaucracy fell awkwardly on some, less awkwardly on others, but fell on all of our shoulders. You made decisions about people's lives. You expelled people from the party. I was a little Stalin. I don't have to talk about other people.
If you did raise a question, they would simply say, did you read the latest article on political affairs? You either lied and said you did and understood it, which you didn't, you know. But they kind of brought the weight of their position and the weight of their intellect and the weight of their experience behind what they said. And when I say they, I'm talking about that person who you were dealing with as your direct superior,
He
in
was
quotes.
probably a section person.
Yeah.
But there's something seems to me sort of somewhat off kilter here, because you're all trying, you talk about creating equality was very important in a democratic society, a better world, but yet you had a fundamentally undemocratic movement to create that, and that somehow, how is that ever going to come about?
And I think that there was that basic flaw in our situation.
Of course
it would not, I don't think that would
of course it was
exist
a
today.
flaw.
I think we're all a little too wide-eyed, a little too independent in our thinking. I can say this now for myself. I would not submit to that kind of discipline
I
again.
think it
No,
was
I
a
wouldn't.
glaring weakness.
Yes, you know, we've been fudging
Sure.
saying that, but I don't know why,
Sure.
because it's true.
It was a
I don't know
glaring
anybody
weakness.
who wouldn't say
But
that.
could you have accomplished as much on the other side?
Very likely not.
And I think
That's the key to it.
That's
the
a
key to
great
it.
problem.
Yeah.
that I
We
see
sort
there.
of instinctively knew that if we had the luxury of sitting around and talking about every decision that we were going to participate in, that we wouldn't get out on the picket line, and that's where we belonged.
I really sincerely believe today that there is a great connection between ends and means. And I think we could at one point say, well, as long as our objectives are all that great, we can do all these crappy little things on the way. And I think a lot of organizations still operate like that, and I think nations operate like that. And I don't believe that at all anymore. I think there's a direct relationship between how we might have built a party that was democratic and the kind of society that might have come out of that.
You said for many years you and most people in the party didn't question certain things, didn't question what came out of the mouths of the leaders of the Soviet Union, perhaps even somewhat the American Party, didn't question some aspect of democratic centralism and so forth. And then later we're to find out that we should have been questioning all along, right? What strikes me is the people who joined the party, to me, were people who were real questioners. They questioned the entire capitalist system they were brought up under. They were people who were, by nature very much against the system, very much active minds, wanting to change things. So how could it that these same people could then have gone along and not question?
I really don't have an answer for that. I'm ashamed that I didn't. And I cannot figure out why anything that Stalin said had to be. It's a certain amount of fanaticism here. I thought I was such a clear thinker in examining my economic analysis of the nature of capitalism, whatever. But if Stalin said it, or any of his close followers, it had to be gospel.
It was absurd. I mean, life is not that simple, and truth is not that simple. And we didn't have all the truth. We had, you know, some few little bits and pieces of the truth here and there. But the only way to build a movement is if you're speaking to genuine concerns of masses of human beings, and the only way to do that is to listen to those people. And we didn't, our listening devices were, you know, poorer and poorer.
I hereby submit my resignation from membership in the Communist Party of the United States, effective immediately. I have come to this decision after 27 years in the communist movement because I feel that the Communist Party has ceased to be an effective force for democracy, peace, and socialism in the United States.
I think that the party had within it, you know, the seeds of its own destruction. And I've thought a lot about this, obviously. If something is that important in your life, you spend a lot of time thinking about it. And what you wonder is what happened to that dream, because here was this great bunch of people, and they shared a dream, and they cared about it enormously. Any unprejudiced observer would agree that we cared about the things that really matter. We want everybody to have a chance at a good life. And we were willing to give our whole lives for that idea and that dream. And, you know, and it went to pieces.
You hate to see people leave that you love. Like the guy I mentioned to you yesterday, I just loved him. I just thought he was tops. I thought he was the smartest man ever. He left. I hated to see them go. Not only that, it diminished our numbers, which meant that we couldn't do the kind of work we had been doing before. I was saddened by it.
It was sad that I would have to leave and find my own way, let's say, in my own little way, to do the best I can.
But you were alone.
Well, there are others who left, you know, and maybe because of our age or something, we're not able to be as active as we were when we were younger. But I'm still interested in everything that goes on in the world. I'm still interested to help advance people wherever they are, you know.
But when you left, it must have been hard to figure out what to do.
Yes, it was. It was a vacuum in my life as to what do I go from here, what do I do from, you know, from now on.
Moved to a new place, began a new career, job-wise. Actually became an apprentice in a new industry.
In your 40s?
In my 40s, I became an apprentice.
It's been a long time getting myself together. It took me almost as long to get myself together as a person as I had spent in the party becoming a communist leader. It was devastating.